Welcome to Cartoon Crossroads Columbus 2021. Our 4-day celebration of comics and the cartoon arts would not be possible without the hard work and dedication of our partner organizations, for whom we are continually appreciative. Cartoon Crossroads Columbus is also a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We rely on donations from individuals, other granting organizations, and corporations. This helps keep all of our CXC programming 100% free. If you're interested in joining our team, whether as a volunteer or to offer other forms of support, please visit our website at cartooncrossroadscolumbus.org and click on the support or volunteer tabs. We would love to have you be part of our team that helps make meaningful connections between the people who make comics and those who love them. Cartoon Crossroad Columbus also acknowledges that the ancient ancestors of the eastern woodland tribes, now referred to as the Adena and Hopewell cultures, inhabited the land that we know as Ohio. Their descendants include the living nations of the Shawnee, Miami, Wyandot, Delaware, and Seneca Cayuga. We honor and respect the diverse indigenous peoples connected to this place where we gather. We hope you're enjoying the event. Please don't forget to visit all of our online expo participants at cartooncrossroadscolumbus.org and look for the exhibitor tab. Lots of good stuff there this year. I took a peek. Also, if you'd like to keep the conversation going, join our Discord channel at cartooncrossroadscolumbus.org/Discord, which you can find on our website. We hope you enjoy the festival. Welcome and hope to see you again.
Everybody, thanks for attending CXC 2021. My name is Jersey Drozd, and I am the Interim Executive Director of CartoonCrossroadsColumbus.org. And I am so excited about the roundtable you're about to experience, the Animation Roundtable. And why am I excited about it? Well, one, there's a lot of really great names you're about to hear. Two, more broadly speaking, and I'm speaking to any young people in the audience who are watching who may want to pursue a career in comics or in animation. Because as any of us who work in comics have, been on book tour, gone to a talk, done a presentation, and some very nervous but well-meaning parents walk into the room and go, yeah, but is it a job? And we say, yes, it is. It's a lot of jobs, and it can be a lot of jobs. And that's what this roundtable is going to be about. We've got a bunch of stellar cartoonists who make comic books and make animation. So how about I start with the introductions, and let's meet some of these exciting people, like Kirk Kim. Oh my goodness, Kirk Kim. He's an award-winning writer, director, and artist who has been captivating audiences for over 20 years. Most recently, he directed 20 episodes of the first season of Amphibia on Disney+. I know a bunch of 13-year-olds just gasped. Before that, he worked for Cartoon Network as the supervising character designer on the Emmy and Peabody award-winning series Adventure Time. More 15-year-olds gasped. He worked for Warner Brothers as a storyboard artist on Green Eggs and Ham, an adaptation of Dr. Seuss's legendary book, now streaming on Netflix. And in the world of comics, Kim is a prolific writer and artist with 5 graphic novels under his belt, translated into numerous languages. His first graphic novel, Same Difference in Other Stories, scored the rare feat of winning all 3 major comics industry awards, the Eisner, Harvey, and the Ignatz. And as I told Derek in person at an ALA one year, it also talked me out of doing comics for a short period of time. I was like, the best one's been written. Why do it anymore? There's no point. I'm going to be like Brian Wilson laying in the bed now. He was it's that good, people, if you haven't read it. He was awarded the second Eisner for The Eternal Smile, a collaboration with MacArthur Fellow Gene Luen Yang. Currently, he is hard at work writing and illustrating a post-apocalyptic saga called The Last Mermaid for Image Comics. He eats chips with chopsticks. That's an important detail. So, Laura Innes is an indie comics creator turned storyboard artist who currently lives in Los Angeles, and she studied animation at the Columbus College of Art and Design. But the major animation studios started closing down and moving work overseas just as she graduated. So she pivoted to her other passion, comic books, and this was to all of our benefit because she made The Dreamer, a webcomic that IDW published as a graphic novel trilogy, and Innes was also the series artist on IDW's Winona Earp. Gorgeous book. But after a decade in comics, she wanted to try something new, and the animation industry had bounced back and was booming with opportunities in television. So she took a leap and landed her first job at Skybound on their animated Invincible series for Amazon. Since then, Innes hasn't looked back, storyboarding on several Warner Brothers DC superhero movies, 2 animated projects for the Russo brothers, HBO's Genlock, and is currently at Hasbro on an unannounced but hella cool series. Hello, Laura.
Hey, they announced it.
Oh, what is it?
The Magic the Gathering series for Netflix.
Ooh.
Oh,
Wow.
nice. And then we get to someone with a short intro, but I that gives me room to gush. Is Katie Shanahan is a cartoonist and storyboard artist from Toronto, Canada. She currently lives in California, working as an episode director at Netflix Animation. Her most recent credits include Centaurworld and several projects set in the Roald Dahl universe. Also, and this is something I said just before you got here, Katie, I have 6 siblings. If I could have one more, I would choose Katie Shanahan. One of the funniest, sweetest people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm so grateful that you're here, Katie.
Happy to be here, Jersey.
And then we get to Graham Annable, an Oscar-nominated director and award-winning comics creator, storyboard artist, and filmmaker. His career has been appreciated throughout the games, television, graphic novel, and film mediums. He co-directed the Leica stop-motion film The Boxtrolls, conceived the puzzle agent games from Telltale Games, and is the creator of The Book of Grickle by Dark Horse, and the early reader series Peter and Ernesto, published by First Second. Hello, Graham.
Hello.
And last but not least is Columbus institution Rafael Rosado. Born in Puerto Rico and raised in Columbus, Ohio, Rafael is a seasoned writer, director, and storyboard artist for the animation industry. He began his career at Character Builders right here in Columbus, Ohio as an assistant animator, and he quickly worked his way up to become a character designer, storyboard artist, and commercial director. During his tenure there, he worked on such shows as Fox's Emmy Award-winning Life with Louie, HBO's Happily Ever After, and Fox's Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Gosh, what did you do after that? Animaniacs. What is it? Men in Black, the animated series. Extreme Ghostbusters. I'm reading through this huge list. Boondocks, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Batman, Venture Brothers, Curious George, Mike Tyson Mysteries. Yeah, I could keep going. Raphael's first graphic novel, Giants Beware, was published by First Second Books in early 2012. His short film, The Tortured Clown, was acquired by and featured on the Sundance Channel. Oh my goodness, I am so out of my league in this room, so I'm going to vanish, Rafa. I'm going to hand it over to you. A round of applause, everybody, virtually for this amazing lineup of creators.
Thanks, Jersey. I guess I have to update my bio, man. That's a lot of old stuff in there. But well, first of all, thank you to all 4 of you for taking the time to panel. I have a lot of questions for you all, and it all stems from the fact that over the years working in animation, I've met many people who are in the same situation we are, where we're working in animation and doing comics, sometimes at the same time, sometimes not. And it seemed like a lot of times I meet people who animators who wanted to do comics people who want to do animation. And I guess maybe people don't realize, how much of an overlap there is out there, because it's not something that's, talked about much, I suppose. So anyway, so I want to ask about, how you got to where you are, and things like time management and, some shop talk kind of stuff, because I want to learn from you guys, to see what I can do better as far as my career in comics, animation, and all that. So anyway, so I want to start with maybe if you can briefly talk about your origin story, and which came first in your life. Was it comics or animation? Was it all at the same time as you grew up? And Laura, you go first.
Yeah. I mean, in my life, it was definitely animation first. Like, I grew up, obviously, Saturday morning cartoons, and Disney feature films was just a massive influence on my life. And when I got older, I started getting into comic books. I think the gateway was the X-Men cartoon. And I think I really took to comics because it challenged me at another level of drawing. Like, this was harder to draw than Disney cartoons and things like that. And so it was like that, plus the stories were more complex and ongoing, right? The sequential nature of kind of a soap opera that is a ongoing comic book. And so I mean, I was convinced I was going to be an artist. I thought it was going to be animation. And then just as I got into CCAD, their partnership with Disney dissolved because they were kind of shutting down all of their animation studios. And I wound up pivoting to comics and did that for a real long stretch for about 10 years, making independent comics, and really burnt out, and was looking for something new. And I had a lot of friends in animation and kind of started putting the feelers out, and then the stars aligned that my friends were supervising directing Invincible and asked me if I wanted to be part of it. And I remember I was at a concert with my husband. I showed him the text. My husband just nodded his head, and I was like, I guess we're moving to LA. And so I was like, that's what it took to get me to finally like make that change. I was like, I couldn't pass up the chance to work out on that story.
That's awesome. I don't blame you. I would have done the same thing. That's an awesome show. So cool. Well, I'm just looking at the screen here. Okay, Derek, how about you?
Yeah, I was kind of the opposite, I guess. Although, I guess because Laura didn't go the way that she thought she was going to go. You did go the same way, I guess. Meaning I always wanted to do comics. Hadn't even thought about animation at all. And then, so I did comics for a long time. And then when I was in LA, I moved to LA. And then one of my friends, good friends, John Pham, is a great cartoonist. He became an art director at Fox's new adult animation venture called ADHD. And they needed a character designer. So he actually asked me if I wanted to be a character designer on it. And I tried out and then did that. And then ended up really loving it. And then went on to other things, and that's how I got into animation. Was just through a friend, really, and needing to pay the bills. but I ended up really, really loving it. The greatest thing about animation for me, compared to comics, is that you work with people. You know, in comics, you know, you get to do whatever you want, but the one downside is you're always alone most of the time. It's a very kind of a solitary sort of endeavor. And in animation, for the first time, I did do a little bit of live action filmmaking before that, just on my own, so I kind of get a taste of it. But as an actual job, animation was the first time I was really in a creative endeavor that was part of a team and people relying on each other. And I really like that, like, community feel of the job.
Cool. How about you, Katie?
Sure. Yeah, I guess started really early. Was lucky to grow up in a household that was full of animation comic fans. My dad was a huge comic animation geek. We grew up with like a lot of anime and Looney Tunes cartoons and old Fleischer cartoons and tons of art books that I don't think I would have even known to look for if he hadn't already been interested in it. Like I remember trying to animate walk cycles for the Preston Blair books as a kid, not doing a great job, but like, you know, oh my God, everything has to be drawn out, all these poses to make something move. And I was doing comics at the time too, because it just, for me, like drawing on your own, you could tell a story a lot quicker when you were making comics. But yeah, it was a blend of both. And knowing I was into all of that and loved drawing, my parents really encouraged me to go pursue it. Got into Sheridan College, where I learned more how the trade worked. And then from there, it was a really great time just being around other creatives who were interested in the industry and knew more about it. And kind of that great thing of just getting to know a community that helped each other up. You know, every job from then on was someone who recommended me, people I would meet that would help me move along the journey. The thing is, when I graduated from school, the animation kind of all went to Flash, so it wasn't so much drawing, it was more working with digital puppetry. And I really missed drawing a lot, so I would do comics on the side for myself, and that's how I ended up getting into storyboard work. And continue to do that, continue to make my own comics on the side. And it's funny because through exhibiting at different comic conventions, I met Megan Nicole Dong, who's also in animation and doing comics. And then eventually when she got her own series, Centaurworld, we'd known each other for so long. And it was just, hey, do you want to come work on my show? I just got it Netflix. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I'd love to. But yeah, it's been a lot of just back and forth. You know, animation's my career right now. Comics is something I don't do as much as I wish I did, but it's something that's always been really important to me for just like Derek said, animation is very collaborative and wonderful. But comics, sometimes when you have something you want to make that's just you, it's nice to go off and focus on that for yourself too. And yeah, that's been my journey so far. It's been really fun.
Awesome. And last but not least, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone's already said a lot of the points. I would say, for me, I guess starting out when I was really young, it was Charlie Brown. It was the Peanut strip by Charles Schultz. That was really like the thing that I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And I was really into that comic strip and into comics in general, Spider-Man, Archie comics. I just wanted to do comic books. I made my own little comics at school with my friend, and we did all that stuff. But by the time I hit the end of high school, it was like, okay, it's getting to be serious time. Got to figure out what I'm actually going to do. And growing up in Canada and growing up in Ontario, I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, Sheridan College. Everybody talked about Sheridan College because animation, and that was like the thing, the prestigious program there. And so I didn't know anything about animation really. At the time, I was watching Ralph Bakshi's Mighty Mouse on Saturday morning cartoons, and that was something that really inspired me. And actually, an NFB short, The Big Snit by Richard Conde. Those two things were enough of a nudge where I was like, animation is just comics plus film. I love film and I love comics, so yeah, I'll go to Sheridan. I was lucky enough to get in, but when I got there and started the course, I was like, oh my God, I don't know anything about this process at all. And everybody, it felt like everybody else in the class was like crazy animation geeks. They all had they could all recite every moment of the 9 Old Men from Disney and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, I was just overwhelmed that there was this whole other world at that time that I had no idea about. But I got through the 3 years at Sheridan, and like Katie said, it was just enough for me to know enough to get a job. And then, your real education begins when you start working in the studios and things. So I sort of bounced around Toronto for a bunch of years, and then I ended up on the West Coast working, animating for LucasArts for video games in the Bay Area. But at a certain point working there, of course, it's video games, and this was like getting towards the end of the 90s. Everything there turned to 3D animation. And that was fine. I enjoyed it. But like Katie, I really missed drawing. So I started doing comics again on the side. And it was the self-published comics that kind of got picked up and turned into, that just sort of evolved into a little career in comics. And then oddly enough, it was the comics, the Grickle comics, that pretty much served as my portfolio to get the storyboarding gig to do work on Coraline up in Portland. So it's like I've had this weird career, I feel like, just like all of you, where the comics feed the film and the film feeds the comics, and it keeps going back and forth. And there's no real master plan that's been happening here. It just keeps going the way it goes, and I keep following as best as I can.
I guess that's the follow-up question I had. Like, as far as a grand plan, I mean, it sounds like a lot of the time we're just sort of going along and just grabbing the opportunities as they come.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's people in the industry, and they want to bring you in, and I think there's a big part of working in the industry that's about who you know, right? And I guess we're lucky. That's the way it's worked out for us. So I guess you might have answered some of these questions already, but as far as doing comics, do you guys find that you have time to do both at the same time, or are you able to inhabit both worlds and like in your head, like working in the day at the studio and then going home and working on comics, or do you have to divide the two because it's too much of a leap, in your brain somehow?
I was just going to say I'll hop in because I think my answer is going to be very short. Because the truth is Coming out here to work at Netflix, I kind of had to make a decision to put comics on hold just because it was a big life move. I just really wanted to focus on directing and just trying to make sure Netflix kept me hired. For comics, I think when I was freelance storyboard artist, it was a lot easier to manage my time more. Just because I was on my own schedule, I had my deadlines to hit and meetings I knew I had to go pitch at. Otherwise, I could manage my time. But it's a lot harder when you're on call more. Like in my day, I have to be in a lot of meetings and reviews, so it's a little bit harder to have the energy to draw as much as I would like to. And then after hours, I just want to get away from the screen and just read other people's comics and enjoy them. So I think I would say to that, though, that it's okay to take breaks, come back to it when you're ready. So that is the one thing I would say to people who are maybe a little bit worried about dry spells for a bit. It's, you can always come back to it and it's fine. You're kind of, I look at it like you take time to create, you take time to just take it all in and be inspired, and sometimes you need to focus on something else, and that's okay. You're still a cartoonist, you're still a comic artist. Come back to it when you're ready. My very short answer.
No, that's fine. I mean, because I don't know if people maybe feel like they're selling out by going to work, you know, at a big studio. And
I love selling out. It's great.
Yeah, right?
Please.
Oh, thank you for saying you're still a cartoonist, because I did the same thing. I definitely put comics on hold, and there are a lot of people waiting for me to finish The Dreamer. And I'm like, I draw all the time for work, all the time when I come home. And I've kind of shifted where my like creative for myself output has been writing. Like I've been working on screenplays. I actually adapted The Dreamer into a screenplay, which I'm really excited about. We'll see whatever happens there. But yeah, like I kind of have, it's like I don't have to draw to do that. I'm working on a novel and kind of those things. But I'm sure one day the comic bug will come back to me. I already start to feel it a little bit, but when I switched over to animation, I was in a place where I was like, I will never do this again. Like I was so burnt out. And so I think to even feel it a little bit is like a good sign for me that one day it'll be the right time and the right project, and I'll come back to it. Because there is the thing about comics where, especially creator owned, which is the part of it, the industry that I come from, where you get to do everything, right? Like you get to come up with a story, the whole world, everything, which you don't get to do in animation. But the thing I've been surprised about coming to animation is how much of me still shapes, like it doesn't feel like selling out. Like I agree with Derek, like I love the collaborative team aspect of it. Like I've come alive after spending so long just working by myself in that environment. And then you get a script and a blank file in Storyboard Pro, and then it's like make a movie, make a TV show. And yeah, like it was cool when Invincible hit and it was so popular and people were like making little gifs out of scenes that I did. It's like, oh, that's my moment, you know, like that. I didn't realize how much of me would make it onto the screen when I made that switch.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really cool moment, right? The first time you see you're drawing up on the screen, even though it's not your drawing because it goes through the whole process, but there's enough of the seed of what you meant to be there that it's like, wow, you know, like you said, it's still my work. That's
yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I definitely agree with Derek as well about the whole comics being that singular effort and animation being that team effort. And that's just something I've said all my career, but I feel like I have been lucky enough to kind of have your cake and eat it too, where, you know, when you want to really zero in and control everything and do it all yourself and make your vision that you feel strongly about, comics are fantastic for doing that. But I absolutely have always loved being part of a team too. There's just something about it, especially, you know, making a TV show or a feature where there's no way one person could have done what all of you did, you know, like the end result is just something undeniably bigger than all of us. And I don't know, it's a great feeling. And I love being having the luxury of jumping between the two back and forth is great, because it is an ebb flow for, you know, what you're feeling most passionate about at that time. And yeah, you do tend to burn out at certain junctures. So it's nice to be able to switch gears and let things marinate and then come back when you're feeling good. And yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
being
had,
at a studio, you feel really inspired by all the talent there, right? I think
Mhm.
if you really care about what you do, it makes you work harder and just to become a better artist too. You know?
definitely. Yeah, when I first started in animation, I had this fantasy of being able to do animation in the daytime and then do my comics at night. That fantasy quickly disappeared because, like, working in animation is great, but it's just so all-consuming. After you're done with the day, you just want to just vegetate in front of your couch. There's so many days where I just like eat dinner in front of the TV and then just fall asleep. Like, and as hard as comics is, I don't remember ever doing that doing comics. Because the collaborative aspect, it's the great part, but it's also the very draining part. Just the having talking to people and socialize and stuff like that. It's very energy sapping. So I quickly realized I kind of had to do comics and then take a or do animation, take a break from animation, do comics, go back to animation. Like I found it, at least just for me, almost impossible to do both at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say that's the way I've been doing it. I mean, I've been working on shows and then doing the graphic novels either at night or on the weekends, and yeah, it's a challenge, but it's a different kind of energy, right? Like working on your own stuff, and just being able to tell your own story and design your own characters, create your own world, the pacing and all that, and have a producer, director tell you to fix this or fix that. I mean, it's definitely it's tapping into some other part of your creative brain, I think.
I find for me, like there's been phases where I've been able to do a little of both, where I spend the day at the studio and do a little bit of the comic or stuff at night, or my own animated short or whatever. But it's very little work, and it always depends on the phase of the process you're at. Like in comics, when you're at the inking phase, for me, it's like most of the deep thinking's done. And it's almost therapeutic sometimes. I may not get a lot of panels done if I've had a long day, but a little bit of it, you can get a little. But at other junctures, like there's no way I'm going to come up with a whole new concept for a comic while I'm in the middle of making a movie or something. There's no way. There's no brain space for that.
Right.
But
I miss inking so much, just in boards, because you're so rough. It's just like, this doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to tell a story. But I love just brush ink, just sitting there listening to music. Oh. Someday.
Yeah, that's funny because I know several comics artists who end up working in animation, and like you say, when you're doing boards, it doesn't have to look like a pristine drawing, right? And I think some of these guys start losing their chops a little bit as far as like finished drawings and inking and that kind of thing. It's really interesting. I mean, definitely different demands.
Sometimes I wonder if
storyboards, you're just telling the story, right?
I just wonder sometimes it's the patience. Like for myself, it's just this is the expression, we're good. But it's just because you're moving so quickly through it. Yeah, I guess it just, you develop a shorthand, and I think that's a good thing too. I think you can tell stories a lot quicker. But there's something nice about just taking your time as well, if you have the time to do it.
Yeah.
I definitely think storyboarding for me has really helped me loosen up. Because if you see my comics before I did animation, they're like just the most anal drawing. Every line is connected, and it's just, and it's really exhausting drawing that way. And now that I've done some storyboarding, it's I find myself being a lot more loose, because when you're in animation, you have that weekly deadline. You just gotta draw as fast as you can. So I mean, these images don't really show what I'm talking about.
How fast did you draw that?
Just in the line work anyway, I feel a lot more loose. Yeah.
So I kind of love that about boards. I was going to say with boards, I do love the aspect of like it doesn't have to be pretty. And I think, I don't know, for myself, I can't stay focused on anything for too long. So like boards are perfect because you just like, yeah, I'm not sweating it. Moving on. Everything's fresh. Everything stays new. It might look terrible at all the end when you look at it again, but just being able to roll through stuff is great. And like you said, yeah, those deadlines just keep you from noodling on anything because you just got to keep moving. And I enjoy that feeling when you get into a flow and you're not stressing.
Yeah. I'm really envious of your loose style, by the way. Yeah, I wish I could be more like you.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, just thinking on the spot, all that stuff you're doing, man. It's really cool.
It's amazing.
So expressive.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, I find I go back and forth as far as like the quality of the drawing on a storyboard. And sometimes, my assistant animator cleanup brain keeps getting in there and trying to make a pretty drawing, even though it doesn't really matter. I spend too much time trying to, because to me it's always like, yeah, you're working throughout your day and you have to get so many panels done a day or whatever. And I was thinking, well, if I can make maybe 2-3 drawings, decent drawings that I'm happy with, while I'm telling, doing my work and telling the story, that makes me happy because I'm still, drawing. I'm still doing it for myself in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Derek, right now you're working on a comic. You're not working on any shows.
No, I can't do both at the same time. So I turned down a bunch of jobs, and it's really hard.
Yeah.
The money and the healthcare would be really nice, but I'm just trying to muscle through and just try to get, because I haven't put out anything of my own in comics for like 10 years. So
oh wow,
I'm really like feeling the drought, and
yeah. But I see, the project you're doing, I mean, you're making animatics out of it that you're posting.
Right? I was originally just for fun, just because I actually really love animatics. Like, I remember looking at the animatics of like Kung Fu Panda, and I'm like, I'd rather see this. I'd rather watch this.
Yeah.
It's so fluid, and like you can feel the drawings. Like the person's hand is just so much more personal and cool, and that's all I need, really. I mean, like, just need those cool drawings and the sound and the voices. This is all I need, really. And a lot of times when I'm working on shows and we're pitching the animatics of the boards, like a lot of times I like those more even than the products. To be honest. So I just did it for fun because I wanted to make an animatic of my own.
Okay, but you're not doing that anymore.
I can't. There's no way to make any money on those.
Oh yeah,
things.
Sure.
There's just no way. Like, it requires sound effects, which I can't pay every single random internet person out there that's making these sounds that I'm, using for free on like freesounds.org. It just would be. It's not so much that I'd love to share the money than if I made any money. It's more the paperwork. Like having to like break that down every month or every animatic. That's not why I got into this.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You need a producer for that.
Yeah, exactly. So at least the comics, pay enough that I can, finish the project. So I kind of have to just keep doing this comic. I can't really financially make it as an animatic, even though that'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I guess my follow-up question to that would be, I guess if you guys have to choose, and money was no object because we know that animation pays really well. You can't compete with comics unless you're a superstar. If you have to make a choice, which one would it be, animation or comic?
That's not fair.
Wow.
It's like asking us to kill one of our children. Like,
Yeah.
So cool.
I mean, I can say for myself, actually, I love working animation, and obviously financially, it's a lot better, and being in the union and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But creatively, I think comics are way much more fulfilling. Just the idea that again, just creating my own thing and being my own boss in a way, and just having that, just the whole creative control, So I guess if I have to pick one, I hope none of my employers will listen to this, but, I'd pick comics.
If you'd asked me 3 years ago, I would have been like comics, and I still love them so much. But like, especially after coming to Netflix and working on Centaurworld closely with the creator of the show and seeing her vision and her crazy ideas come to life, and just what an amazing, smooth production it was and what a great team it was. I think that made me fall in love with animation again, because I was kind of burning out freelancing a little bit and storyboarding. And, you know, I love Toronto. I love Toronto animators, but I was finding just I wasn't maybe hitting the projects that were inspiring me at the time. But then coming out here and just being lucky with the projects I've been on, it really made me excited about animation again and about creator-driven content. I don't love the word content, but creator-driven shows, and especially at Netflix, because they do have like a bunch of shows coming out now that are very like they want that creator's voice to really speak for that show. They want that strange, niche, interesting, personal voice, and being there on the ground floor while it's made just made me really love it again and just made me excited for it. And I don't know if I would have the energy to make my own show. It's so much, you know, that Megan took on her shoulders, but just it just kind of made me fall in love with it again. So don't make me choose, but right now animation, because that's just where I'm at. But my answer might change in a couple of years.
Sure,
and I'm allowed to switch.
The creator of the show came from comics also.
Yeah, both. She was working like at DreamWorks as a story artist and was making her own comics online. And that's what I mean, like the same with this panel. It's animation comics. You take breaks to do your own thing. You work in animation. Hopefully find a project you love to work on. If you don't love that particular project, at least you can hopefully build a little bit of a nest egg to take some time off to work on your own stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy I'm drawing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always say every day. I'm, you know, whether it's doing one or the other, hey, I'm still drawing for a living. Can't beat it. What about you, Derek?
Oh, gosh. Sorry, I was so engrossed in what Katie was saying. Question. Ooh, that's tough. Can you come back to me?
Sure.
I guess right now I just say comics, just because for 10 years I've been working on other people's visions, you know. So it's nice to be able to tell something on my own. But 10 years of comics, I'll probably say animation. Yeah, I like that balance. I do equally love both the collaborative filmmaking process and the solitary comics process equally. So, that's a really tough question, Rafael.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess right now it's the comics, just because I'm working with comics.
Yeah. Okay. Who has an answer?
I'm just staying quiet. I'm gonna let Laura go. Laura.
We don't like this question. Can you just give us another one?
Choose. It's one of those would you rather, you know.
Yeah. I mean, okay. If I was making the same amount of money, I would probably say comics. But I know myself, I would also be trying to like shop it for series at the same time. Like I still would, I don't know, there's something about like seeing and hearing voices and seeing stuff move. Like I did an animatic for The Dreamer, and it was like, I've been making this comic for 10 years, but to see my characters come alive and interact and move was like a whole other level of excitement that came from that. And so I don't know, they're married in my mind, because even when I'm making comics, I'm thinking about them moving even on the still page. Like that's always like a part of it for me is how can I bring this to the screen eventually? So both and is my answer.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the skills crisscross, right? Because I think after working in animation, there's no way that your comics couldn't be more dynamic and have a different sense of pacing and all that, I would think. I mean, at least for me, it's been that way.
I mean, to be honest, I've been excited about the idea of making comics after being in animation, because like what Derek said, like they will be so much looser. I used to just noodle and I did a historical fiction, so like the amount of buttons and lace and nonsense I was drawing all the time is like, oh, I am, and just even dynamic compositions and things like that. Like I can't wait to see when it is the right time for that, to see how that translates over and kind of like my style will evolve, and hopefully speed up my process too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, working digitally for sure. Because I know we all work digitally in TV, right? So, but yeah, Graham, you haven't answered the tough question.
I mean, honestly, I have thought about this. Like, we've all had our little, I'm sure, lottery fantasies of like, if I won the lottery, would I even still make art? Like, what would I do? And when I've thought about it, and I think about the comics and working on films, like everybody said, I mean, there's equal love for all of it, honestly, and it just depends on where you're at in your life at that time and which thing you've burned yourself out on and which thing you're ready to be fresh for. But I suppose if I was just completely like, it didn't matter money-wise, I could do whatever I wanted every day I got up, I think I would probably do the animated shorts that I do and have been doing on my YouTube channel and all that, those little shorts, because that's kind of the best of both, because they're short enough that I can do everything. And certainly the style I've chosen to do them allows me to do everything and get it done within like a reasonable amount of time, like anywhere from a couple of weeks to maybe a couple of months, but I can get something done. And, both working in features and right now I'm doing a comic that hasn't been announced yet, but I've been working on it for like over 3 years in different spots. It's like a horror comic for like middle school readers. It's like over 300 friggin' pages. I've never done that many pages before, and I've been drowning for like the last year, but I'm almost there now. It's exciting, but I get so overwhelmed when I take on projects that you can't kind of get your arms around. You can't see the end at the beginning, and it's terrifying. I mean, the whole directing gig on the Boxtrolls was the most terrifying thing I'd ever done, because it's just, you feel powerless every day. You're like, this is never going to end. We're never finishing this. It's impossible. So I love doing those little shorts because I can feel the beginning and the end of it. They're just little ideas. And I have to say, like Laura was saying about like animation, that marriage of visual with sound is magical. It is every friggin' time. Every time you do it, when you put in the first trying out some music or trying out a little sound effect, it's so exciting. I don't know that any other element and any other medium equals that moment when you get to put those things together. So I guess, yeah, I would do animated shorts, I guess.
Yeah. Best of both worlds. Yeah.
A little, yeah, kind of in between.
Yeah. Well, how often do you make those shorts? I mean, because you've been doing them for a long time.
Doing them for a long time, but I will freely admit that the last couple of years it's been a lot less of them. I've been picking away at one that, yeah, it's been 2 years I've been picking away at it, so there's just been too many other shiny bits in my life to chase right now. But every now and again, I'll just sit down and I'll do a little bit of a shot, and then I'll put it back on the shelf and wait.
Yeah, that's cool.
Time to buy a lottery ticket.
I know.
Yeah,
I
Speed that along.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let me ask this. What project, can you speak about whatever project you're working on right now, whether it's comics or TV? I know if you're working on something that hasn't been announced, there's only so much you can talk about, but what can you tell me?
Who's gonna go first?
Nothing at all.
Who's getting fired first?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's going through their heads like, what's announced? What can I say? What shouldn't I say?
Jersey,
Sign my
he just put up a big NDA.
Yeah. We'll mute your answer. So
Perfect. Good.
Well, no, Katie, I saw that you're working on some Roald Dahl.
I am, yeah. So Netflix acquired the rights to a bunch of the Roald Dahl books. Like, I can't say all of them, but stuff like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Matilda, and are developing those as a, I can't say too much about it. But I've been helping out there as a storyboard artist and an episode director, which has been amazing. I'm working with some incredible people, and I think it's like you were saying earlier too about how you kind of learn something each new project. It's the film cinematic language I'm learning in this project is it feels like I'm going back to school again a little bit. So that's been really inspiring and really it's a lot of work, but it's been a blast to work on. And I don't know when it's coming out, but it'll be on Netflix eventually. And it's
cool.
Yeah, just been really inspiring to revisit those books from my childhood.
Are they going to look like Quentin Blake illustrations?
I can't say.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
I do love the Quentin Blake illustrations.
Yeah, I mean that's what comes to mind, you know, right away, right? And Laura, you said you're working on Magic: The Gathering.
I am.
That's been announced, so you can tell us a little bit.
Just like 2 weeks ago, I think. Like I just announced it. I'm really excited because I was actually on the project the first time around when the Russo brothers were producing it. And then that came to an end and worked several other places in between. And then they started production back up again. And somehow I weaseled my way onto that team. I wanted to be on that show so bad. I don't know. It's been exciting. I love to play the game, and they announced that Izzy Medrano, one of Magic: The Gathering's artists, is our art director. And I think they released a couple of the designs. I think an environment and a character design you can kind of see, but it's a really cool world. I can't say anything else but I am enjoying working on it. And I also, in my free time, I just finished a brand new pilot script for an idea that had been a graphic novel I was kind of developing a while back and then forgot about, and then revived it and adapted it for animated TV. And so I just wrapped that up. I'm kind of like working on some concept art to go with that and see where that goes. But I don't know. It always feels good to make something new, and it's kind of exciting. So.
Cool. So something you're gonna take out and pitch?
What?
You're gonna take that out to pitch at some point then?
Yeah, hopefully. That's the plan.
Yeah, cool. All right, Derek, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just wondering if, Laura, you played Magic.
I do play Magic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not that great at it, but I have a lot of fun.
Whenever I see people playing it, I feel like I'm looking at the Matrix. Just like,
You know, what was really fun was the first time around, we were all still in studio when it was at Agbo with the Russo brothers. And so on lunch breaks, we did like a draft tournament. Like Wizards of the Coast sent us like boxes of cards. And so we just did a draft, and like most of us didn't know how to play. There were like 2 or 3 guys who did. So they were our referees, and we would just play on our lunch breaks. It was this big common area outside in the building we were in downtown LA. It was like our animation studio and then some fashion designers. So they would like come and eat their lunch on that end of the courtyard, and there'd be like 15 nerds playing Magic on the other side. And it's a fun way to learn because most of us were starting from zero. So there wasn't that, I know people have been playing it forever. It's intimidating.
I love that.
So it's not a prerequisite of working on the show that you have to learn.
No, it's not. I wish that we could still play on our lunch breaks, but
Yeah, that's cool. So I guess my next question would be, it's probably hard to answer this question, but I guess, do you foresee this dual career going on for the rest of your lives? I guess it kind of goes back to that same idea of picking one, but I mean,
Yes, question mark?
question mark.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Sorry, please go.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
given the fact that there, like I said, there's been absolutely no master plan of any kind on this, I would fear to try to have to predict what the next round is. So, but I would hope that I keep crisscrossing, because I enjoy how each medium seems to hopefully charge you up for the next run at the other medium when you go back and forth. So I very much enjoy that aspect, and I don't see that changing.
Yeah. Well, I hope you know, the ones here in this panel that aren't doing comics right now eventually have time and energy to go back to doing those comics. You know? As a fan.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I have one last question. What advice, you know, the old question, what advice would you give to, you know, aspiring artists, whether in animation or comics or both? I mean, you know, somebody who like us would have no master plan, but could foresee that happening, you know, kind of going back and forth between the two.
I think for me, what worked for me was kind of just making stuff you love and putting it out there and just being just a good, nice person. I don't know. It was very, you know, I got very lucky. Everything with comics for me was something that I love. Collaborating with my brother, who also is a writer, and then just going to conventions and meeting people, and it just making the stories we wanted to tell and putting them out there is kind of how we ended up meeting the community, the Flight comics community. You know, Kazuki Buishi and everyone there who helped introduce us to other people. That's how I met a lot of people in the LA animation industry. But it was just kind of making the stories we wanted to tell and putting them out there. And you know, a lot of it is kind of luck and timing, but just carving out a little bit of time to just do something you love. It's kind of that thing with portfolios where it's kind of put the stuff in there that you want to draw, because if you put stuff in there you don't want to draw, those are the jobs you're going to get. And it's like, do you want to do something you don't want to do for work forever? it's I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of roundabout. I have a point I'm roundabout coming to, but it's just, if you can take little bits of time to work on something that genuinely is yours, that you love to make and put out there, there's no guarantee, but I think it will help you get closer to the goals. It'll help you get closer down that path. And honestly, if you're having fun along the way and enjoying yourself, I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's the most important, because that's what's going to keep you going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree totally with that. I don't know, I feel bad because this question obviously comes up a lot anytime you do any sort of interview or anything. And yeah, I always sort of default to follow your heart, follow your passion, but it is the truth, because exactly what Katie said, it's like, you don't want a portfolio full of stuff that you're actually not that into, because where's that going to go? I mean, you're going to be doing jobs you don't want to do. And yeah, it hopefully can only lead to what you want to do if you're drawing and creating the things you're enthusiastic and into. And it shows in a drawing. You can just always see it in rough drawings or finished drawings. You can tell when somebody's really into what they're doing. Whether I'm into that content or not, you can almost always tell if somebody was super stoked about that drawing. it's just there, you know. And yeah, you've got to follow what you need to do. And so a lot of times that also takes an effort on your behalf of figuring out what it is that you like about art. Like, you know, I feel like I wished, if I guess if there's anything I could go back in time to ask or tell myself, it's like, slow down and actually think about what you're doing and why you're doing it and what you really like about it. Because I think it's always been about speed for me. I've just wanted to make stuff fast and make a lot of things, but I wished I'd taken a little more time to really understand why I was into that, or what, you know, just create a little better context for myself, I guess, as I went along. Because it's taken a long time to learn very little, I think, in my situation.
Derek?
I was just thinking about it. I would say, if it's a young artist starting out, don't beat yourself up if you don't know what you want to do right away. Because what you want to do right now at this moment might not be what you want to do 10 years later. You don't know. You have no idea until you start doing it. You have dreams of what things are going to be like until you actually do that thing. And there's certain things that might not click with your personality, you know, how things are done. So yeah, don't beat yourself up over it if you're not like super clear. Just feel free to try whatever and see what you're good at or what you click into. And I guess the only other advice I would say is if you're going into animation, don't be a dick. Because not only does it make it hard for everyone else, you're making it harder on yourself. As a director, one of the toughest things is you have to give notes, and sometimes you'll come across artists who just take things too personally. It's nothing personal. It's just the whole of the project. And if you take it too personally, it's gonna just muck everything up, not just for everyone else, but for yourself too. So just don't take it personally. It's just, it's the vision of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Don't be a jerk. Because that PA you're a jerk to today could be your producer in a few years, and he's not gonna hire you.
Yeah, it's also like it's a collaborative process, so you have to go into it understanding that. And even if you have a great idea, it might not fit the time frame, it might not fit the bigger vision for the episode, and you can't allow yourself to be too precious with anything, or it's going to be a long, hard road for you. I think my advice is not art related. I think my advice would be to make sure you have a life outside of art. Like that really informs what you want to make art about. It informs the kind of stories you want to tell. Like if you haven't lived a deep, rich life, how do you put that into your characters, and how do you put that into the stories you tell? And I think like personal pain and trauma has like really shaped the stories I tell. And like, The Dreamer was an outlet telling a dramatic war story to really work through some very difficult things in my life. But that stuff like shapes who you are as an individual. And when you share it, it connects with other people. And so just to be making sure that your whole life isn't just morning to night drawing, but like enriching your own life so that you can give that to the world and have something that's uniquely you that no one else can do.
Wow. Yeah. That's fantastic advice. Yeah. Become a well-rounded person, and then your work will be more interesting. So, all right, cool. You guys have anything else to add? Any more pearls of wisdom like that one?
That was great. Really
yeah,
well said.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much again for your time. And I know that viewers are going to get a lot out of this conversation, because there's some really good points made. And, again, I'm a fan of all of you, all the work, everyone at this panel. And I just, I want to see more comics from all of you.
You guys inspired me. I want to make a comic now. What have you done?
Cool. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on. It was wonderful to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Same here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.